Girl power. Girl power.
As news of Hillary Clinton's second run for the White House begins to settle in, some women in Times Square express support.
I think she's an awesome woman with experience. She has that it that's going to make the difference. She's going to drive it home.
I think so. She's worked very hard to get to where she's at. And I believe there should be a woman president. It's time already.
But others said her window of opportunity may already be closed.
But I think in today's turmoil, I'm not sure she would be the right person to lead us.
Being a good president, the only time will tell. You know, it's like with everyone else.
Clinton's 2008 bid for the Democratic nomination was heavily criticized for conveying a sense of arrogance and entitlement. This time, she's hoping to portray herself as a more empathetic figure.
Yeah, I think that she would make a good president, yes.
And maybe we need a woman. Maybe.
According to a Reuters Ipsos tracking poll, Clinton is supported by more than 60% of Democrats.
All right, the United States says it will file an official complaint after a close call on Tuesday between an American spy plane and a Russian fighter jet. The Pentagon says the U.S. aircraft like this one seen here was flying in international airspace north of Poland when the Russian jet intercepted it. A Pentagon spokesman says the Russian pilot acted, quote, unsafe and unprofessional because of close proximity and high rate of speed. Joining us right now to help break this down is Lieutenant General Mark Herdling on the phone with us. So help us understand, A, how this could happen if we're talking about over Poland airspace.
Fred, it shouldn't be happening, but we're seeing the EUCOM commander, General Breedlove, is seeing increasing incidents of this. The Russians have done almost 4 times as many of these kinds of incursions and challenges of aircraft, not only the United States, but other NATO nations this year, a significant increase across the board. This is something that we have repeatedly claimed is dangerous because Russians are not only going up to our airplanes in a threatening manner, but they've also conducted some of these kinds of overflights of European territory without transponders on. So it's just a very dangerous set of circumstances. And I think it's Russia's way of showing NATO and the United States, we're going to do this because we can. You're not doing anything about it.
And let me correct myself. I said Poland, Russian space. It's international Russian space north of Poland. But,
right.
You know, if this is just kind of bullying in the air, if we think that's what this is, what is the ultimate goal? I mean, how does this advance Russia's cause or their position in the world? I mean, what would be the goal here?
Well, the goal is basically to threaten to say that they can do these kinds of things. And I think it's a direct response to Europe, threatening Russia with continued sanctions because of the Ukrainian issue. Russia is testing the water. It's Mr. Putin, actually, who's testing the water to see how far he can go. He's already had an incursion into the Donbass region in Russia. And I think, personally, that we will soon see, within the next month or two, some increasing Russian incursions into the Crimea. And, again, we have said sanctions against Russia are our only means of threatening them back. I think we've seen some military actions in the last few weeks where both the U.S. Army in Europe and the U.S. Air Force in Europe has spread their wings a little bit more and threatened back by conducting some operations, especially in countries along the Russian border, the Baltic countries, in Poland. And truthfully, all of those Eastern European countries are somewhat concerned about all this. They've seen this happen before with Russia, and they're not all that fired up about having this kind of actions by their neighbors to the east continue.
A 1-year-old boy is dead in Cleveland, Ohio, after police say a 3-year-old boy picked up an unattended gun and shot him in the head on Sunday. Police are trying to determine how the gun got into the house with the children and say charges are likely.
A 3-year-old can't be held accountable for a tragedy like this. You know, there have to be adults that either supplied the weapons, had charge of the weapons, or that knew the weapons were there and didn't do anything to safeguard them.
The 1-year-old, identified as Braylon Robinson, was pronounced dead at a hospital. Authorities say at least one adult was in the home. Neighbors say Braylon's mother lived in the house with at least 3 small children. Police and neighbors say guns are to blame.
Everybody has to know that, this fascination that we have with handguns, not just in the city, but in this country, has to stop. This is a senseless loss of life in this city again, and it's directly related to guns.
Where did they get the gun from? I mean, that's the main question. Where did the gun come from?
No arrests were reported on Sunday. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.
Growing concerns of potential gun grabbing around the country. One California man filled out all the paperwork, he says, eventually filed a federal lawsuit to have 21 seized firearms returned to him. He was awarded money for the value of the guns because police say they destroyed the weapons. Second Amendment lawyers argue this happens all the time, all across the country, but does it? Judge Anna Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst, with me now. Sir, good morning to you.
Bill?
You say gun confiscation is actually not a new idea.
No,
Why?
but it has been ratcheted up in recent years. It is a reaction by local officials, typically liberal Democratic politicians, reacting to the movement by the federal courts in favor of recognizing gun rights. All of this stemming from a Supreme Court decision written by Justice Scalia about 5 years ago, which defined and declared once and for all, after 230 years, that the Second Amendment protects a natural fundamental right to self-defense, and it is the government's burden to show why it should be interfered with.
So maybe it's this case in California, maybe it's somewhere else, but the public officials would argue we're doing this in the interest of public safety.
Well, if a person has an argument with a school teacher or a doctor or a cop and uses words he shouldn't use, he doesn't have a gun on him, he doesn't make a threat, he shouldn't be surprised if he legally owns guns that a SWAT team will show up at his house and seize the guns. And then when he sues to get the guns back, he gets cash, the fair market value of the guns, but not the guns themselves.
So you're saying that's common?
Yes, and it is absolutely profoundly unconstitutional. But some judges who disagree with Justice Scalia's opinion and the Supreme Court's opinion on the right to keep and bear arms have been letting this happen without due process, without a hearing, without an opportunity for him to defend himself.
I think you would argue if the reason why you have to register in the first place so the state knows who has what and where.
Well, the state wants to know who has guns so it knows who to take them away from when the state is worried that people will have guns. What is the state worried about? My right and your right and the right of everybody watching us now to own a gun is as natural as our right to free speech and press and worship and travel and privacy. But the liberal politicians in this country that hate guns continue to try and wear away on it, even after these Supreme Court opinions upholding that right.
What did Jefferson say about this?
When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. I'm with Jefferson.
Yes, you are. Thank you, Judge.
So is the Constitution.
I see it, and I hear it. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure, Bill.
Deadly double shooting minutes after a toddler is hit and killed by a van after darting into the street. And Milwaukee police say that the 41-year-old driver stayed at the scene, and that is when he was shot in the head. A 15-year-old boy who was not in the vehicle was also shot and killed. At this point, it's unclear if the murders are linked to the child being hit.
Sad news to report. The victim, who was shot in the library, has died. That's according to authorities there. From what we understand, the campus is still on lockdown. Authorities are still looking for this lone suspect. We believe it is a male. On the phone with me right now is Daniel Wiggins. He's Assistant Operations Manager for Wayne County. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Tell me in your own words what you believe is happening at Wayne Community College.
Okay. The information we're releasing at this time is that we do have a report of a shooter on the campus. One person has been shot. We do have one victim, unknown of any other victims. The suspect is still at large at this time. We have multiple law enforcement agencies on scene working together to track him. A perimeter has been set up around the college to make sure we keep him in that perimeter.
Did the shooting occur in the library, sir?
That is the call that came in that we had, is that it did occur in the library.
Do you believe that person who was shot was targeted?
We're unknown of any motives at this time.
Can you give us a description of who you're looking for? Is it a student? Was it someone off campus? Is there any description at all?
We don't have a good description of the suspect at this time. We've had multiple different reports, so we're unable to give out any information at this time.
And when you say there's a lockdown on campus, students are advised to stay where they are, lock their doors, that kind of thing?
That is correct. Stay safe, lock your doors, barricade yourself. If you see the shooter, stay quiet, get on the floor, don't make any noises at all.
Has the library itself been evacuated?
We're unsure at this time. We do know we have law enforcement on scene at this time handling the situation, so we're letting them handle any evacuations at this time.
How did the call come in that there had been a shooting in the library?
We had reports over the radio from a campus police officer that somebody had been shot.
And did authorities storm into the library, or was the shooter gone by the time that you guys arrived?
I believe the shooter was gone by the time authorities arrived.
Can you tell us whether you're looking for a male or a female?
We do believe it is a male subject that we're looking for, but an unknown description of that male suspect.
We're here this afternoon for your first appearance. For purposes of today's hearing, I am appointing the public defender for you. There's a warrant that's been issued out of the state of North Carolina for you for the charge of murder. Based on that warrant, I do find probable cause for you to have been arrested and direct that you be held no bond for the state of North Carolina to come pick you up.
I don't blame you for that, you know what I mean?
All right, thank you, Mr. Stansel.
Yes, sir. Hey,
right.
but just let you know.
All right, and Mr. Stansel, let me say this, because your rights were played over the loudspeaker in the back, and one of the rights you have is the right to remain silent, but should you choose to do so, you're entitled to speak here today.
All right, I just want you to know, I really one last child molester from the earth, that my little brother. All right,
Mr. Stansel.
that's all I got to say. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a how much time you
Thank you,
give me.
Mr. Stansel.
You want time's the easy part, you know what I'm saying?
Step it back.
Back now at 8 o'clock with some breaking news right off of the top. An overnight homicide at a Dunkin Donuts near Arundel Mills.
A big search underway for a suspect, and now we know police are looking for a man they say killed his wife. Fox 5's Jennifer Davis is live in Hanover, Maryland now with those new details. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning, guys. Yes, a manhunt underway, police say, for this husband believed to have killed his wife inside this Dunkin Donuts here in Hanover. And police tell us both were employees of this establishment. Now, take a look at the picture of the suspect police are releasing. They've identified him as 24-year-old Bhadresh Kumar Patel, and they say they do believe he is dangerous. That's after the events that unfolded last night. Police say they were called to the scene just before 11 o'clock by customers who got to this Dunkin Donuts and found no employees here. An officer responded, found the woman lying in the kitchen area. They pronounced her dead at the scene and identified her as 21-year-old Palak Patel of Hanover. Police say witness interviews and evidence at the scene led them to her 24-year-old husband, also an employee of this Dunkin Donuts. They say he hit his wife several times with an object, causing her death, and then fled. A source is telling Fox 5 that object was a sword or machete and that this is an especially gruesome scene, although we don't officially have police confirming that yet. Police, though, telling us they are searching for this suspect, and they say the manhunt is underway. They have charged him with first and second degree murder, also first and second degree assault, and say anyone with information about his location is asked to call police. Back to you guys.
All right, Jennifer, thank you for those details this morning.
A bizarre scene was unfolding outside the Capitol. Inside the Capitol, officers sprung into action, alerting lawmakers and their staffs that the building had been put on lockdown. CNN's Athena Jones is now live on Capitol Hill. Athena, you were there when this all went down. Tell us what happened.
Hi, Jake. Well, it was dramatic, and I got to tell you, it was confusing at that particular moment in time. We were standing outside the Senate Foreign Relations Committee room, which is a room on the first floor of the Capitol. Inside was the Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi, who was having a meet-and-greet photo op with members of that committee. So, of course, when you have a foreign leader coming in, there's a lot of security around, a lot of folks with radios. All of a sudden, we heard that distinctive crackling of the police radio. Then at least half a dozen uniformed officers of the Capitol Police rushed by us in a couple of directions, rushing through the building. And of course, we asked what's going on. We were told that a helicopter had landed on the west front of the Capitol and that no one knew why. And so, of course, this is a huge concern, this being a restricted area. Later on, we find out that it's the smaller aircraft, the gyroscope. But at the time, they were very, very concerned. They did not evacuate the Capitol building, but they did put it briefly on lockdown. And they also were discussing having to evacuate the Iraqi Prime Minister out the other side of the Capitol, the side facing the Supreme Court, if that had been necessary. In the end, everything was brought under control, and this man was brought into custody. But it was bizarre and not a very ordinary day on the Hill.
Indeed. He's lucky to be alive. Athena Jones, thank you.
Making headlines around the world.
Yeah, HPD officers opened fire and killed a man who led police and deputies on a chase. It started on the East Esk Freeway 59 North at Cross Timbers in North Houston and ended in a crash on Wallaceville and North Castle Gorey in Northeast Harris County. The man was driving that dark blue Chrysler 300. 41-year-old Frank Shepard was shot and killed after he got out of that vehicle and then reached back inside. A North Shore High School senior, 18-year-old Andrea Espino, was on her way home from school when her car was hit during the chase. Channel 2's Jennifer Bauer joining us live where the chase ended with reaction from the suspect and innocent victims' families. Jennifer?
Yeah, you know, it was a wild chase, and as you mentioned, it ended right here at this intersection here behind me. The man who was leading police on that chase was 41-year-old Frank Shepard. His friends and family called him Trey, and tonight they tell us he didn't pull over because he was afraid.
He just told me he loved me. He just said, "Mom, I love you." And I told him I love him. What's going on?
Those were the last words Cheryl Shepard spoke to her son. Frank Shepard called her from inside this car while he led police on a chase through Northeast Harris County.
He said the police are chasing me, and I said, no, stop the car, baby. He said, man, I can't, and they ain't gonna do me.
Shepard was well known in this community as a popular barber who worked at this salon on Homestead. He'd been cutting hair for more than 20 years. His mom and stepdad came to collect his belongings. That's when Cheryl told us she was watching the breaking news unfold live on television when she saw her son get shot and killed by police. She says once he got out of the vehicle, he was surrendering. He didn't reach back in like it appears on the video.
He got shot back into that car.
Just seconds before the shooting, Shepard blew through this intersection, slamming into this white vehicle. Inside, 18-year-old Andrea Espino, a North Shore High School senior who was on her way home. Her mother tells Channel 2, thankfully her daughter is going to be okay.
Told her to rest for 2 or 3 days because she's got a concussion to her head, a little bruise. Thank you for everyone's prayers, and, you know, thank God she's well.
An 18-year-old Andrea Espino, we're told, leaves high school early and goes and takes some college courses. Her mom tells us she wants to become a doctor after she graduates high school later this year. As for Shepard, he leaves behind 3 children and a girlfriend who is pregnant with his 4th child. We are live in Northeast Harris County. I'm Jennifer Bauer, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
Thank you, Jennifer. Shepard had a lengthy rap sheet, reaches all the way back to 1991. That's the year he was convicted of aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon and unlawfully carrying a weapon. In 2000, he was convicted of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and escaping while in custody. In 2008, he was charged with a terroristic threat, but that case was dismissed. Then in 2012, he was convicted of assault with bodily injury. In 2013, there was a warrant issued against him for assault on a family member. That's the warrant he was wanted for that led to the chase today.